Mr. Scalfarotto, you are the Undersecretary for Foreign Affairs in Italy, and you're in charge of foreign trade. I want to talk to you about the G20 Summit. I would like to know, what do you hope to see emerging from the G20 Summit? And I wanted to ask you if there are any key commitments Italy would like to see in the final communique of the summit.
Yes, I think that especially after this pandemic that we're facing, what we need to see is a strong commitment on multilateralism. I think that this huge, unprecedented challenge showed us that the only way forward for the world economy is strengthening the multilateral institutions in charge of regulating trade and economic relations. I think, for example, of the WTO, as you know, we are in the process of appointing a new director general. We know that the dispute settlement body has been stuck for some time already. So I think that what we have learned the hard way in facing this pandemic is that we need to leverage each other's strengths and make sure that we get more integration, more globalization, not less globalization, of course, within a multilateral and rule-based system. So this is what we expect to see from the summit and the final communique.
How do you think Saudi Arabia has handled the G20 in these very tiring circumstances of COVID-19?
First of all, let me express my deep sympathy for the difficult juncture that the kingdom is facing due to the pandemic. We are all on the same boat, and of course, the Saudi Arabia had to handle G20 in a very challenging time, also from an organizational perspective, because when we meet at the multilateral, in multilateral fora, we tend to work with each other. Of course, there are formal meetings, but there's also a lot of opportunities to talk to each other, to create cooperation, to work on single issues. We have a number of, meetings that run around the event itself. And in this case, it was not possible. So I would say that the Saudi presidency did very well to keep us together, to keep the work flowing in spite of the very difficult circumstances. So I would say that we really appreciated their work, their commitment, and especially their ability to bring to our attention the most important issues we're facing at this very moment.
What is the Italian view on the recovery from the pandemic recession? In other words, how soon do you think Italy and the world will be able to go back to something approaching normal?
Well, it has been, and it is an unprecedented challenge. Of course, the last pandemic was probably 1918 with the so-called Spanish flu. But the world was completely different. There was no internet, people were not traveling around, there was no globalization. The world, in a way, was used to be much bigger at that time. Now we are facing, in a much smaller world, this huge infection, which has basically hit all the continents. But I'm confident because I know that history taught us that mankind was always able to face this kind of challenges. I believe that the level of technology we have available will be very, very important for us. And I believe this also will be potentially, something that will force us to carry out the reforms that we need in many, many countries. It will be probably the opportunity to fight bureaucracy, to increase digitization around the world in terms of our processes. I think, for example, of everything related to the environment, sustainability. So we will probably, most of times crises, if well handled, can turn into opportunities. So I think we will have to have a fresh view on the way we produce, on the way we trade with each other, and build on this stop that we are experiencing to restart with a brand new approach to our economy, with more attention, as I said, to technological development and sustainability. So, it is a hard time, but I'm confident that Italy and the rest of the world will make it.
Let's go to the bilateral relationship between Italy and Saudi Arabia. What do you really see as the core areas of mutual interest between the two countries?
Well, there are many. I would say that the business relations between and political relations between Italy and Saudi Arabia are very good. And we think that Vision 2030 is a very important framework to develop a new collaboration, new cooperation in many sectors. I think, for example, of infrastructure, of course, manufacturing. Italy is an important manufacturing power, but also, of course, together with manufacturing, you have logistics, of course, energy, healthcare, that of course has become extremely important. Tourism will be very important. Entertainment, maybe. So there's a lot of fields where our economies and our skills are complementary. And I hope that, and I'm sure we will be working together in an even more cohesive and way, so that we can build on our cooperation for the benefit of both the countries. Of course, in the past years, we have worked together very, very well. I think especially of the oil and gas industry, where a number of Italian companies have worked together with Saudi Aramco, for example, in contributing to make the kingdom a global leader in oil and gas. I think there was, in the success of Saudi Arabia in that sector, there was a portion of Italian competencies and quality.
Would there be any specific deals between Italy and Saudi Arabia emerging from the contacts that you will have at G20 meetings?
I hope so, of course, but I'm not in the position to comment on this, because you wouldn't comment on deals that are not closed finally, until they're closed, until they're agreed. But let me say that it was another opportunity to work together very positively. And when you have a good business relation and good political relation, sooner or later new deals come up. So I'm sure we will see something coming up in the future, in the close future. And again, I want to compliment Saudi Arabia for running G20 in this really unprecedented circumstances.